At the end of this video, you will become a fully fledged author only if you follow my advice. If you don't know me, I am Arnel Arcega. I'm a credible writer and author who will continue to write in his time just because I want to show to the world that books matter. And in this video, you're expecting to write to some degree, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or any kind of writing piece. I'm here to tell you the exact guide by guide, step-by-step process in how to write. And this will only work if you turn off your brain and listen to what I gotta say. Understanding why you want to write is an important factor first. You want to be an author simply because you either want to tell a story or because you have a message to share as a growing business, whether you're a player in some sort of field or you're trying to tell something much more scientific, let's say a science or philosophical field. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. And I'm here to tell you the honest truth about writing. Writing is easy, but it can also be insanely difficult only because you don't get the work done. I'm here to guide you in the exact details you need to get done so that you don't have to rely on AI, ghostwriters, or whatever the case is. Because if you do that, I will look down on you and you are just a pathetic waste of time. Step 1. If you want to get better at writing, and if you want to improve this skill to become a great author, the first major thing you need to do is know what's needed. Understanding what you need to get done is a better way of writing than it is wanting. Everyone wants to tell a story or want to be a writer to some degree, but not every story needs to be told. Every story has a reason to be told, but the best situations and the best messages are only told in a needed situation. Let's focus on fiction books. Fiction is a vast and wide area that is determined by different genres and areas. Understanding what genre that's needed to be told is the best way to get your message across. And really, we should hone in as a fiction author in something of that field. You should focus on drama, you should focus on comedy, you should focus on romance. Whatever the case is with your genre, absolutely focus on that. Write down 5 different kinds of genres. Once you write down all 5, circle one. Just circle the one that you feel the absolute most needed to be written. It doesn't matter what kind of story needs to be told. What do you think is needed more in that field? If you want to be a writer, this is the serious question we need to ask you. How do we take this idea of wanting and transferring that into a need? How do we take what we see into something that matters? And that's the case for a fiction story. Focusing on the genre and just honing in just one area. Let's say drama, for instance. Know every single autistic detail about it so that you could then just build on top of whatever story you're piling up. Switching over to nonfiction. Nonfiction is another great example in which you have to just hone in your craft, specifically what topic you want to cover. If you're trying to write a self-help book, then chances are you need to hone in on what you do best, what habits you build, and think of the best kind of questions to ask your reader. When knowing what's needed, you need to break it down into pieces that isn't just wants as a creator. Rather, you should break it down into a need that is like food and water. By understanding what works in your audience and knowing what is needed, it really shows where you can start from start to finish. And you can write down any story, any idea, or any kind of message that's needed to be told only if you're so firm and confident in that belief. Step number 2, plan the solution. Once you figure out your exact system or the exact need, this niche for what you're trying to go for, planning the solution is the best way to go about it. We broke down into a need, and that need is based on a problem and solution. You already have your problem. Going back to the fiction area, the problem is there's not enough drama stories, or there's not enough suspense and horror stories. You need to tell something that's special, and telling the most corporate and bland work out there not only makes you as a worse writer, but just a worse person in general. So we need to think strategically in how we're supposed to view our work. and that involves planning our solution. The solution to our craft is a lot of different structures and how the book is going to play out. One of the best ways I do this is the save the cat metric. Save the cat is this line graph where you go from point A to point Z in so many different steps. You break it down to 16 parts, and once you figure out where that part starts and where that part ends, that's the best part of your fully fledged story. If you want to be a fictional author, you need to know your start and your end. To plan your solution, these two are the biggest points that you need to get across. You can do this anywhere, from a Google Doc, Word doc, to even a piece of paper. So don't overthink this, just start with a beginning and an end. You already know the genre, you already know somewhat the idea in mind. Now we need to start with the big points, so start with the beginning and the end. For the nonfiction writers, we need to think about the exact same idea. Instead, we should hone in on our message. If we're looking at some sort of theme, going back to that self-help book or a philosophical book, we need to look at the 3 big questions. Just 3 big questions that would be for a beginning, middle, and end. These are some of the best uses in nonfiction books whenever I read, and it's a great instance of looking at where you start, what you want to infer the reader with, and what you want to give the reader to ponder about. Once you see how that is, I'm telling you this, you will have the best results in both fields. And I'm telling you, it's a great instance to just plan the solution from start to finish and to see where everything will line up in your full story. Now, this is only just a structure. This will not be a full-on book. The reason we need to set up the structure is because we have to build steps on top of each other. You don't become an author overnight. It takes days, weeks, months even, to just gradually get this story or this message across. And you can't do it all alone. You need the people around you. And that's where step 3 comes in. Engage in what you know. You may not be the world's greatest author. I firmly think I am going to be, but there's still much I need to learn. If you follow my advice, you will see the natural progression that comes with it. But what I've learned in my writing is that there's a lot of different aspects that come with it. There's a lot of different audiences, a lot of different words, and different sets of characters and genres. There's a lot of things to break down, and it's so damn overcomplicated. We need to just break it down into one simple factor. That is what you know. What you know is the best areas and the best kind of story you can tell. And understanding where you start and stop is the best way to get any point across. As a young guy myself, we need more young men writers to do this, to focus on books as a whole and engaging that specific field, what I know in writing. That's exactly what I plan to do by separating each and every detail to make sure the core stays the same. It's about the same way I remember making in a previous video of mine of looking into what works and what doesn't with a story. And by engaging in what works for you, what works for the people around you, and what works for your targeted audience, you will have a greater benefit by knowing the key details you need to have. Now, of course, for fictional and non-fictional books, you need to have some sort of grammar and at least know English for this. If you're someone not in the United States or somewhere that doesn't have English, do your best to learn English, as understanding why English books matter so much is great. You could do books in different languages, sure, but to get ahead and to be just a solid, successful author, you need to have this idea of words that come together in a natural and progressive flow. It helps a lot by talking and communicating this way, but not everyone has that chance. So if you want to talk one-on-one with me through text, then check me out on my socials down below. But for now, understanding why books are so effective comes in many different structures, and by engaging your audience in these different types of structures, you will have something unique. Having something unique about your book is what engages them, and that is where the 4th and final tip comes in. Copy and effect. Not cause and effect. Copy and effect is this term I made in which if you see a lot of the best fields and the best books, why don't you just copy? Now, I know that sounds like plagiarism, but if you take in, let's say, one book, that is full-on plagiarism. if you take in 2 books. Some people might notice, while some people might not. It really depends on what your audience sees, and we're trying to get the audience message across from start to finish. Having your place as a writer, you need to take in one inspiration after another, after another, after another. Soon enough, all those will slowly become more and more, stacking up like a pyramid tower until there's no plagiarism at all and your story is fully original. It is said that there is nothing original. Going to fictional stories, there's nothing original in what field you want. And same case can apply to nonfiction, as every single idea has been told once before. All the self-help books, all the philosophical, all the hell, even the cookbooks, they've all been told to some degree. And yet, it is by taking in and copying those ideas from the best of the best and then using it to your effect that will be the easiest way to write in the best possible manner. If you want to be an author, and more or less if you want to be a successful author, you need to copy an effect. Why don't you just copy some of the best work? Now obviously, like we said, no plagiarism and no AI. That's the biggest rule as an author and the biggest rule I have. If you come to me and tell me AI, to just get out of here. You're being intolerant and you're being dumb. So what we need to do instead is to follow with different areas. Take one chapter from a book. Use that. Don't take every single piece, but just use the first chapter alone. And that can help you get started in what works and what doesn't. Having these authors who've been writing for years, follow their advice and follow what they have to say. Now you can still follow me in what I'm saying, but I'm advising you to do this just by taking it in. And this is the best case for the first chapter. Why first chapters suck a lot of the time is because many people try to do something wholly original, when in all honesty, you're just being outright stupid. You need to be called out for this. Like, I'm the military sergeant and you're the trainee. We need to focus on your writing as a piece that comes together and forms as a greater story. That doesn't come until you have something original, and it's easier to just copy and affect each and every one of those wordplays. Having that in mind, you need to break it down with each step. Slowly but surely, each chapter will be a different copy of a different book, but by going back, seeing and tweaking what works, before you know it, you will become a full-on author. Now, I've taken in many different forms of copying, and it sure looks like it's taking it all in, but it's far from plagiarism. One copy is plagiarism, but 100 copies is inspiration. And once you understand that fact, you will become the best creative author you will ever see in your life. And it really depends on what kind of author or creator you want to be. This even works in technical writing, in how many news reports and many letters of recognition involve taking in that writing and from other people. So breaking it down, making it easier for yourself, all it takes is 1 to 4 good hours of work. And before you know it, the more consistent you run at it, the more you will become a fully fledged author. Now, there's a lot of steps to this. If you want to see where those steps come from, you could watch all my other videos. But for now, we're just getting the basic details of how to be an author. And if you follow my advice, every single word for every single detail, you will see that writing is a fun process. It will take a lot of time and effort, but patience and stillness is the key of this game. And it's the secret power you can use to get ahead as an author. We need more writers in the world. And taking this all in and fueling my own business, we need to make sure that there's enough space for enough creative and influential people to have their side of power. And if you want to have more of that, contact me down in my socials down below. And if you want to see exactly what I mean with storytelling from this video, check out my first 2 books in the link of the description. It will help a lot. They're down there as Google Docs, and it will pay so much just to leave a comment and leave something that will engage with me. It sounds like a lot, but like an author, break it down, structure it, and copy it. Until then, keep on writing, and with that in mind, take care.